Commander Daniel Cole had never seen anything so beautiful and terrifying at the same time. He stood on the observation deck of the hidden lunar shipyard, looking out at the fleet that humanity had built in secret. 200 warships floated in the darkness of space, hidden on the far side of the moon where no Council satellite could detect them. They were painted black to blend with the void, and their engines were cold to avoid heat signatures. From Earth, from the Council station, from anywhere in the known galaxy, these ships did not exist, but they were very real. Impressive, isn't it? Dr. Megan Price walked up beside him. She was a small woman with tired eyes and messy brown hair. She had not slept properly in years. She had been too busy building weapons that could save humanity. "You did all this in 10 years, Daniel said. It was not a question. 15, actually. We started the program before first contact, back when we thought aliens might be hostile." Megan smiled sadly. "Turns out we were right to be careful." She led him through the shipyard, pointing out different vessel types. There were fast attack ships that could outrun anything the Council had. There were heavy cruisers with armor that could take dozens of hits. And in the center of the formation sat the flagship, the ESS Defiance. It was the largest warship Earth had ever built. "The Council thinks human technology is primitive," Megan explained as they walked. "They gave us scraps of knowledge and expected us to be grateful. But they made a mistake. They underestimated how quickly humans can learn and adapt. How did we catch up so fast?" Megan stopped at a window overlooking the Defiance. "We didn't just catch up, Commander. We passed them. The Council species have been using the same technology for thousands of years. They stopped innovating because they didn't need to. But humans? We never stop improving things." She pulled up a display on her tablet. It showed a comparison between Council ships and human ships. The differences were striking. Our engines are 30% faster because we redesigned the fuel injection system. Our shields can adapt to different weapon frequencies in real time. And our weapons... She smiled. "Our weapons use principles that Council scientists said were impossible." Daniel felt a surge of pride. This was what humanity did. When faced with impossible odds, they found a way. When told something could not be done, they did it anyway. "What about the EMP system?" he asked. "Fully operational. We can generate a pulse that will disable any ship within 100 kilometers. Their weapons, shields, engines, life support, everything goes dead. But the crew stays alive." Megan met his eyes. "We built this to defend ourselves, Commander, not to commit genocide." Daniel nodded. He had read reports about how the Council dealt with species that resisted integration. Entire planets were burned. Billions of lives were erased. Humanity would not do the same. They would fight with everything they had, but they would not become the monsters they were fighting against. A young officer approached them. "Commander Cole, Admiral Brooks is requesting your presence in the command center. Ambassador Bennett has sent new intelligence." They hurried through the corridors of the lunar base. The halls were filled with activity. Engineers ran final checks on equipment. Pilots studied battle simulations. Everyone moved with purpose and determination. They all knew what was at stake. Admiral Brooks was waiting in the command center with a grim expression. Behind him, screens showed the movement of Council ships throughout the solar system. "The ambassador's intelligence was correct," Brooks said. "The Council fleet is mobilizing faster than expected. We have 3 weeks before they reach Earth. 3 weeks." Daniel looked at the fleet positions. "Can we be ready?" "We have to be." Brooks pulled up a tactical display. "I've already started repositioning our ships. Half the fleet will hide in the asteroid belt. A quarter will take position behind Jupiter's moons. The rest will wait on the dark side of Mars. What about the Council observation ships in Earth orbit? We leave them alone for now. If we attack them early, we lose the element of surprise. Brooks zoomed in on Earth. When the Council fleet arrives, they'll expect no resistance. They'll move into attack formation, surround the planet, and demand surrender. That's when we strike. Megan spoke up. There's another factor we need to consider. The Council will try to contact Ambassador Bennett before the attack. They might suspect she's been gathering intelligence. Daniel frowned. Can we get her out? Not without revealing that we know their plans. She has to stay in place until the last possible moment. Brooks shook his head. She knows the risks. She accepted them. On the Council station, Lavra Bennett was having the most difficult dinner of her life. She sat at a long table with High Counselor Vexroth and several other alien diplomats. They were celebrating the upcoming integration ceremony, though they used much friendlier words to describe it. Earth has made such wonderful progress, Vexroth said. His voice was smooth and warm, like honey hiding poison. In just 5 years, your people have learned so much. Soon you will be ready for the next step. Lavra smiled politely. The Council has been very generous with its guidance. Of course. That is our purpose. To help younger species find their place in the galaxy. Vexrath gestured with one of his forearms. Every species has a role to play. Some are leaders. Some are builders. Some are workers. Lavra understood what he meant. Humans would be workers. Slaves, in everything but name. We are honored by the Council's attention, she said, keeping her voice calm and grateful. After dinner, she returned to her quarters and locked the door. Her hands were shaking. Every day, it became harder to pretend. Every day, she wanted to scream the truth at Vexroth and watch his confident smile disappear. But she could not. Not yet. She had a role to play, and she would play it perfectly until a moment Earth no longer needed her to pretend. She opened a secure channel and began transmitting. She sent fleet positions, weapon specifications, defense codes, everything she had gathered over 5 years. The data would take hours to transfer, but every byte of information could save human lives. When she finished, she sat in the darkness of her room and thought about home. She had not seen Earth in 3 years. She missed the smell of rain and the sound of birds. She missed her family, her friends, all the small things that made life worth living. Soon, she told herself. Soon she would see them again, or she would die trying to protect them. Either way, she would not fail her people. She would not let the Council win. In the lunar shipyard, Captain Eric Lawson walked through the corridors of the ESS Defiance. He ran his hand along the walls and felt the hum of power beneath the metal. This ship was his responsibility. These crew members were his family. He reached the bridge and stood before the main view screen. Through the transparent panels, he could see the other ships of the fleet waiting in formation. Captain, his tactical officer, Lieutenant Claire Morrison, approached with a tablet. All systems are operational. The crew is ready. Good. Lawson looked at the stars beyond the ships. Somewhere out there, an enemy fleet was coming to enslave his species. They thought humanity would surrender quietly. They were wrong. Pass the word to all hands, Lawson said. In 3 weeks, we show the galaxy what Earth is made of. High Counselor Vexroth stood before the great window of his private chamber, watching his fleet assemble. 500 warships gathered in formation, their weapons charged and their crews eager. It was the largest military force the Council had deployed in 2 centuries, and it was all for one small planet called Earth. Vexroth allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The integration of humanity would be his greatest achievement. Their planet was rich with resources. Their population was large and healthy, perfect for labor. And best of all, they had no idea what was coming. His assistant entered the chamber. High Counselor, Ambassador Bennett has arrived as requested. Send her in. Lavra walked into the room with her head held high. She had practiced this moment 1,000 times in her mind. She knew what was coming, and she knew exactly how she would respond. "Ambassador Bennett," Vexrath said warmly, "thank you for coming. I have wonderful news to share. I am always honored by your summons, High Counselor." Vexrath gestured for her to sit. His forearms moved gracefully as he poured 2 glasses of wine. Earth has reached an important moment in its development. The Council has decided to elevate your species to a new status. Lavra took the glass but did not drink. "That is indeed wonderful news. What does this new status involve?" "Full integration into Council society." Vexrath smiled, showing rows of small, sharp teeth. "Your people will have access to all our technology. Your planet will be connected to our trade networks. You will finally take your proper place among the stars. And what would the Council require in return? Nothing unreasonable. Your military forces would be merged with Council peacekeeping units. Your government would report to Council administrators. Your resources would be shared for the benefit of all species." Vexrath spread his arms wide. "A small price for such great gifts." Lavra nodded slowly, as if considering the offer. Inside, her heart was pounding. This was the moment. Everything she had worked for came down to the next few seconds. When would this integration begin? She asked. "The ceremony will take place in 3 days. A Council fleet is already traveling to Earth to oversee the transition." Vexrath leaned forward. "I trust you will help your people understand the importance of cooperation." "Of course, High Counselor." Lavra smiled her most diplomatic smile. "I will do everything I can to ensure humanity accepts its new role." She stood and bowed respectfully. As she walked toward the door, she activated a small device hidden in her sleeve. The device began transmitting on a secure frequency that only Earth's receivers could detect. The message was simple. It's time. Thousands of light years away. Commander Daniel Cole received the transmission in the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. He read the 3 words and felt the weight of history pressing down on him. He turned to face the room, full of military officers and world leaders who had gathered for this moment. Presidents, prime ministers, generals, and admirals. The most powerful people on Earth stood waiting for his words. "The Council fleet is 3 days away," Daniel said. "Ambassador Bennett has confirmed that integration means complete subjugation. Our people will become slaves. Our resources will be stolen. Everything we have built as a species will be erased." The room was silent. Fear hung in the air like smoke, but we are not helpless. Daniel pressed a button, and the screens behind him came to life. They showed Earth's hidden fleet emerging from the shadows of the moon. 200 warships, built in secret, crewed by the best humanity had to offer. For 15 years, we have prepared for this day. We hoped it would never come. We hoped the Council would be the friends they claimed to be. But we planned for the worst, and now that planning will save us. Admiral Brooks stepped forward. "All fleet elements are in position. Our ships are faster, our weapons are stronger, and our people are ready to fight. The Council expects sheep. They will find wolves." One by one, the world leaders spoke. They pledged their support, their resources, their people. For the first time in human history, every nation on Earth stood united behind a single cause. Daniel felt a surge of emotion. This was humanity at its best. Faced with extinction, they had not fallen into despair or turned against each other. They had come together, put aside old hatreds, and prepared to fight as one species. "Broadcast to all commands," Daniel ordered. "Operation Rising Sun is active. All ships move to engagement positions." In the darkness of space, the human fleet began to move. Ships powered up their engines and glided silently toward their assigned locations. The asteroid belt, the moons of Jupiter, the shadow of Mars. They spread out across the solar system like hunters preparing an ambush. On the Council Station, Lavra watched the alien fleet depart for Earth. She had done everything she could. Now she had to wait. A council guard approached her. "Ambassador Bennett, the High Counselor requests your presence on the observation deck. He wants you to witness your planet's elevation." Lavra followed the guard, keeping her face calm. She would stand beside Vexrath and watch his fleet approach Earth. She would see his confident smile as he prepared to enslave her people. And then she would see that smile disappear. 3 days passed slowly. The Council fleet crossed the vast distance between stars, their ships moving in perfect formation. Vexrath monitored their progress from the station, counting down the hours until his victory. "The fleet has entered the human solar system," his tactical officer reported. "No resistance detected. No military response. The planet appears undefended." Vexrath nodded with satisfaction. "As expected. Establish orbit around Earth and prepare for the integration ceremony." The Council ships moved toward the blue planet. They passed the outer planets without incident. They crossed the asteroid belt without encountering any obstacles. Everything was going exactly as planned. Then the tactical officer's voice changed. "High Counselor, we are detecting energy signatures." "What kind of signatures?" "Ship signatures. Hundreds of them. They are appearing all around our fleet." Vexrath stared at the display. Red dots were blossoming across the tactical map. Behind asteroids, behind moons, behind planets. Ships were emerging from hiding places throughout the solar system, surrounding the Council fleet on all sides. "That's impossible," Vexrath whispered. "They don't have ships." "They can't have ships." But they did. Captain Eric Lawson stood on the bridge of the ESS Defiance as his ship emerged from the shadow of Mars. Around him, the human fleet powered up their weapons and locked onto targets. 200 warships against 500. Bad odds by any measure. But humans had never cared about odds. Lawson opened a communication, CHANAL, that broadcast on every frequency the Council used. His voice carried across the void to every alien ship, every alien commander, every alien crew member who had come to enslave his world. "This is Captain Eric Lawson of the Earthship Defiance, speaking on behalf of humanity. You came to our home expecting to find a primitive species ready for subjugation. You were wrong." He paused, letting the words sink in. "We know what you planned for us. We know what you've done to other species. And we will not allow it to happen to Earth or anyone else. Stand down your weapons and surrender, or face the consequences." On the observation deck of the Council Station, Vexrath watched the tactical display with wide eyes. Beside him, Ambassador Laura Bennett finally allowed herself to smile. "You made a mistake," she said quietly. "You looked at us and saw weakness. You never saw what we were hiding." Vexrath turned to her, his face twisted with fury and disbelief. "This changes nothing. We still outnumber you. We will crush your pathetic fleet." Laura's smile did not waver. "You're welcome to try." Ambassador Laura Bennett stood at the tall window of her office on the Galactic Council Station. She watched the stars and thought about how different everything had seemed 5 years ago. Back then, when the alien ships first appeared above Earth, humanity had celebrated. They were not alone in the universe. The Galactic Council had come with open arms and promises of friendship, but Laura had learned that promises could be empty. She turned away from the window and sat at her desk. On the screen in front of her were 2 maps. One was the official star chart the Council had given to Earth. The other was a map she had secretly copied from a Council database 3 months ago. The maps were very different. Whole star systems were missing from Earth's version. Resource-rich planets that the Council claimed did not exist were clearly marked on their private charts. Laura felt sick to her stomach. For 5 years, humanity had trusted these aliens. They had believed the Council when they said Earth was too primitive for advanced technology. They had accepted protection chips in their solar system, thinking it was for their safety. Now Laura knew the truth. Those ships were not there to protect Earth. They were there to watch it. Her communicator buzzed. She pressed the button and heard the familiar voice of Commander Daniel Cole. "Ambassador, I received your message. I'm at the secure facility now. Can you talk?" "Yes, Commander. The channel is encrypted." Laura took a deep breath. "Did you review the files I sent?" There was a long pause. When Daniel spoke again, his voice was heavy with anger. "I reviewed them. The Council has been mining our asteroid belt for 3 years. They've taken millions of tons of rare minerals. And according to their own records, they've been doing this to every new species they contact." "It gets worse," Laura said. She pulled up another file on her screen. "I intercepted a transmission last night. The Council has a program called integration harvesting. They find young civilizations, keep them weak and dependent, and then absorb them completely. Their people become workers. Their resources become Council property. And Earth is on their list? We're scheduled for integration in 6 months." Laura's hands trembled slightly. "They think we have no idea. They think we're still grateful little primitives waiting for their guidance." Daniel was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who had been waiting for bad news and finally received it. "Then it's a good thing we never really trusted them," he said. Laura allowed herself a small smile. She knew what Daniel meant. From the very first day of contact, certain leaders on Earth had been suspicious. While the public celebrated, secret programs had begun. Hidden facilities were built. Technology was developed in places the Council's sensors could not reach. Earth had smiled and played the role of the grateful newcomer. But behind that smile, humanity had been preparing. "How much time do we have?" Daniel asked. The transmission said 6 months. But I don't trust that timeline. They could move faster. Understood. I'll brief Admiral Brooks today. We need to accelerate our preparations. The communication ended, and Laura sat back in her chair. She thought about the alien council members she worked with every day. Vexrath, the High Counselor, always spoke to her with a kind smile. He called humanity promising and full of potential. Now she understood what that really meant. To him, humans were promising resources. They had potential to be exploited. She had played her part well for 5 years. She had pretended to be impressed by Council technology. She had acted grateful for their limited gifts of knowledge. She had reported back to Earth about everything she learned while the Council believed she was just a simple diplomat from a simple world. The deception went both ways. Thousands of miles below the station. On Earth, Commander Daniel Cole walked through a long underground tunnel. The facility around him had been built in secret over 15 years, hidden beneath the Rocky Mountains. Even before first contact, Earth's governments had prepared for the possibility that aliens might not be friendly. Admiral Nathan Brooks was waiting for him in the command center. The older man had gray hair and sharp eyes that had seen too many battles. I read the ambassador's report, Admiral Brooks said. 6 months, maybe less. Daniel looked at the massive screens covering the walls. They showed fleet positions, shipyard status, and weapons development progress. Are we ready? Brooks walked to a large display showing the dark side of Earth's moon. Hidden in the shadows where no Council satellite could see, shipyards had been working day and night for a decade. We have 200 warships fully operational, Brooks said. Another 50 will be ready within 3 months. Our pilots have been training in simulators based on captured Council technology. And the weapons? Dr. Price's team finished the EMP system last month. We can disable enemy ships without destroying them. Brooks smiled slightly. We're not murderers, Daniel. We just want to survive. Daniel nodded. He had always believed that humanity's greatest strength was not violence, but determination. They would fight if they had to, but they would not become monsters to win. The Council thinks we're helpless, Daniel said. They think we've spent 5 years falling further behind. They're about to learn how wrong they are. Back on the station, Lavra received an urgent message. Her heart beat faster as she read it. A Council military fleet was being assembled in a nearby system. According to official reports, it was for training exercises. But Lavra had learned to read between the lines. The fleet was too large for training. The ships being gathered were assault vessels, designed for planetary subjugation. And the navigation log she had secretly accessed showed their planned destination .Earth. She immediately sent an encrypted message to Commander Cole. Her fingers moved quickly across the GISTA controls as she attached all the evidence she had gathered. The message was short and simple. They're coming. Sooner than we thought. 3 weeks, not 6 months. She deleted all traces of the transmission and returned to her window. Outside, Council ships moved peacefully through space. Aliens walked through the station's corridors, going about their daily business. None of them knew that everything was about to change. Laura thought about her home. She thought about blue skies and green forests and cities full of people who had no idea what was coming. But she also thought about the hidden strength of her species. Humanity had faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, wars. They had survived everything. The Galactic Council had made a terrible mistake. They had looked at humanity and seen weakness. They had seen a young species that could be controlled and used. They had not seen the truth. And soon, very soon, they would learn what Earth could really do. The Battle of Seoul began with fire and light. Council warships opened their weapons, sending beams of energy toward the human fleet. They expected quick kills. They expected primitive ships with weak shields and poor defenses. They expected the battle to last minutes. They were completely wrong. Lieutenant Claire Morrison watched the incoming fire from her tactical station aboard the ESS Defiance. Her fingers danced across the controls as she tracked dozens of enemy weapons. Incoming fire. Multiple vectors, she reported calmly. Activate adaptive shields. Captain Lawson ordered. The Defiance's shields came to life with a shimmer of blue light. But these were not ordinary shields. Dr. Megan Price's team had designed them to analyze incoming weapons and adjust their frequency in real time. The Council beams struck the shields and scattered harmlessly into space. On a Council cruiser, the weapons officer stared at his display in confusion. Direct hit confirmed, but no damage. How is that possible? The same scene played out across the Council fleet. Ships fired their weapons at human targets, confident in their superior technology. And one by one, they watched their beams do nothing. Admiral Nathan Brooks commanded the battle from his flagship, the ESS Resolution. He had spent decades studying military tactics, and he knew that surprise was his greatest weapon. All ships, execute Pattern Delta, he ordered. Show them what human pilots can do. The human fleet moved as one, but they did not move like Council ships. They did not fly in straight lines or hold rigid formations. They spun and weaved and twisted through space like living creatures. They used asteroids as cover. They flew dangerously close to each other, passing within meters to confuse enemy targeting systems. Council gunners could not track them. Their weapons were designed for enemies that fought in predictable patterns. Humans did not fight predictably. Humans fought like chaos given form. They're too fast, a Council commander shouted into his communicator. Our weapons can't lock onto them. Then use area suppression fire. Vexrath ordered from the station. "Flood the space with energy. Something has to hit them." The Council ships changed tactics, filling entire sectors with weapon fire. Some human ships took hits. Shields flared and hulls shook. But still they kept coming. Still they kept fighting. Still they refused to break. On the Defiance, Captain Lawson felt his ship rock from a near miss. Alarms blared and damage reports flooded in, but he kept his focus on the battle. "Time to show them our teeth," he said. "Morrison, target the lead Council cruiser. Fire main weapons." The Defiance's primary cannon powered up with a deep hum that every crew member felt in their bones. Then it fired. The weapon was unlike anything the Council had ever seen. Dr. Price had designed it using principles that alien scientists claimed were impossible. The beam passed through the Council cruiser's shields as if they did not exist, and struck the ship's engine core. The cruiser did not explode. It simply went dark. Every system, every light, every weapon shut down in an instant. The ship drifted through space, completely helpless. "What happened?" Vexrath demanded. "Why didn't they destroy it?" Lavra stood beside him on the observation deck, watching the battle unfold. "Because we're not like you," she said. "We don't believe in killing when we have another choice." The human fleet pressed forward, their special weapons disabling ship after ship. Council crews found themselves floating in darkness, their vessels dead around them. They were not killed, but they were removed from the fight as surely as if they had been destroyed. Admiral Brooks watched his tactical display with grim satisfaction. "The EMP weapons are working perfectly. We've disabled 30 ships so far. Enemy formation is breaking up. Press the advantage," Commander Daniel Cole ordered from Earth. "Don't give them time to adapt." Brooks nodded and signaled his fleet. "All ships, execute flanking maneuver Alpha 7. Split their formation." The human fleet divided into 3 groups. One group continued the frontal attack, keeping the Council's attention. The second group swung around to the left, targeting the enemy's flank. The third group dropped below the battle plane and came up underneath the Council ship's dot. It was a move straight out of Earth's ancient naval history, adapted for 3-dimensional space combat. The Council had never seen anything like it. "They're surrounding us," a Council admiral reported, panic creeping into his voice. "Our formation is collapsing. Hold your positions." Vexrath screamed. "You outnumber them. Fight back." But numbers meant nothing when your enemy moved faster, fought smarter, and refused to play by your rules. The Council fleet, so confident just hours ago, was falling apart. On the Council station, Lavra saw her opportunity. The guards were distracted by the chaos of battle. Communication systems were overwhelmed with panicked reports. No one was watching her. She slipped away from the observation deck and made her way to the station's main broadcast center. Years of working on the station had taught her every corridor, every access code, every weakness in their security. She reached the broadcast center and locked the door behind her. Her fingers moved quickly across the alien controls as she accessed the Galactic Communication Network. Every species in the Council's territory was about to receive a message. She began uploading the files she had gathered over 5 years. Evidence of the Council's deception. Records of species they had exploited and destroyed. Proof that the benevolent Council was nothing more than a group of slavers hiding behind pretty words. "To all species of the galaxy," she said into the broadcaster. "My name is Laura Bennett, human ambassador to the Galactic Council. What I am about to show you will change everything you believe about your government." The transmission spread across the stars. On hundreds of worlds, aliens stopped what they were doing and watched the evidence unfold. They saw their leaders lie and steal and destroy. They saw the truth that had been hidden from them for thousands of years. Back in the battle, the tide had turned completely. More than half the Council fleet was disabled. their ships drifting dead in space. The rest were retreating, their formation shattered, their confidence destroyed. Vexrath stood alone on the observation deck, watching his perfect plan fall apart. His fleet was defeated. His secrets were exposed. Everything he had built was crumbling around him. His communicator buzzed. He answered it with shaking hands. High Counselor Vexrath. Commander Daniel Cole's voice was calm and steady. This is Commander Cole of the Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is disabled. Your secrets are revealed. You have lost. Vexrath's face twisted with hatred. This isn't over. The Council has more fleets. We will return with 1,000 ships and burn your planet to ash. No, Daniel said. You won't, because every species in the galaxy now knows what you really are. Your own people are watching the evidence right now. How long do you think they will follow leaders who have been lying to them for centuries? The communicator went silent. Vexrath had no answer. On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Lawson allowed himself a moment of relief. They had done it. Against impossible odds, against an empire that spanned the galaxy. Humanity had stood its ground, and Lieutenant Morrison looked at her display. Enemy ships are in full retreat. They're running. Lawson nodded. Let them go. We don't shoot enemies in the back. The crew of the Defiance watched as the remaining Council ships fled into deep space. The Battle of Sol was over. Humanity had survived. The war ended not with more destruction, but with a conversation. Commander Daniel Cole stood in the communication center on Earth, facing a holographic image of High Counselor Vexrath. The alien looked older than he had before the battle. His confidence was gone, replaced by something that might have been fear. You have won, Vexrath said. His voice was flat and empty. What do you want? Revenge? Territory? Do you wish to do to us what we planned to do to you? Daniel looked at the alien for a long moment before speaking. No. Vexrath's eyes widened with surprise. No? We are not like you. Daniel stepped closer to the hologram. We did not fight this war to become conquerors. We fought to survive. We fought to protect our home and our people. Now that we have done that, we have no desire for revenge. Then what do you want? Change. Daniel pulled up a display showing star maps covered in markers. Each marker represented a species the Council had exploited, deceived, or destroyed over the centuries. We found your records. We know what you have done to other civilizations. Hundreds of species reduced to slavery. Dozen more wiped out completely because they refused to submit. Vexrath said nothing. There was nothing he could say. This ends now, Daniel continued. The Council will be reformed. Exploited species will be freed. Resources that were stolen will be returned. And any species that wishes to leave the Council will be allowed to do so without punishment. And if we refuse, then we will release every piece of evidence we have collected. Every crime, every lie, every atrocity. Daniel's voice hardened. Your own people are already questioning everything they believed. How long do you think the Council will survive when every species knows the truth? Vexrath lowered his head. He had spent his entire life building power, manipulating others, controlling the galaxy from the shadows. And now a primitive species from a small blue planet had torn it all away. You ask us to destroy everything we have. Built, he said quietly. No, we ask you to build something better. Daniel's tone softened slightly. The galaxy doesn't need an empire ruled by deception and fear. It needs a real alliance where species work together as equals, where the strong protect the weak instead of exploiting them. And you think humanity can lead this alliance? We don't want to lead anything. We want to be partners. Daniel smiled slightly. We've seen what happens when one species tries to control all the others. It doesn't work. It never works. The only way forward is cooperation. The conversation continued for hours. Negotiations stretched into days, then weeks. But slowly, painfully, agreements were reached. The old council leadership was removed from power. New representatives were elected from every member species. And for the first time in galactic history, the government that emerged was truly democratic. 1 year later, the galaxy looked very different. Admiral Nathan Brooks stood on the bridge of Earth's newest space station, watching ships from dozens of species pass by. The station served as headquarters for the Galactic Defense Cooperative, an alliance of worlds committed to protecting the innocent and helping the vulnerable. Admiral, a young officer approached him. The ambassador is on her way up. Brooks smiled. Send her in. Lavra Bennett walked onto the bridge wearing the formal robes of a high counselor. She had been elected to the position 3 months ago, the first human to hold such a rank. The same species that had nearly been enslaved was now helping to lead the galaxy toward a better future. Admiral Brooks, Lavra said warmly. It's good to see you, Counselor Bennett. Or should I call you High Counselor now? Lavra laughed. Lavra is fine. We've been through too much together for titles. They walked to the observation window and looked out at the stars. Ships of all shapes and sizes moved through space on peaceful missions. Trade vessels carrying goods between worlds. Science ships exploring unknown regions. Medical transports delivering aid to planets in need. It's beautiful, Lavra said softly. A year ago, I thought I would die on that council station. I thought humanity would be enslaved or destroyed. And now we're here. Brooks nodded. It's strange how things work out. On Earth, the changes were just as dramatic. The technology that humanity had developed in secret was now being shared openly. Medical advances were curing diseases that had plagued the species for centuries. Clean energy was replacing dirty fuels. Poverty and hunger were becoming things of the past, and across the galaxy, other species were beginning to see humans differently. They had expected conquerors after the battle. They had expected revenge and violence. Instead, they found teachers and healers and friends. Dr. Megan Price was spending her time traveling between worlds, sharing human scientific knowledge with anyone who wanted to learn. The weapons she had built for war were being converted into tools for peace. The EMP technology that had disabled ships was now being used to safely mine asteroids without destroying them. Commander Daniel Cole had retired from active military service. He spent his days in a small house by the ocean, watching the waves and enjoying the peace he had fought so hard to protect. Sometimes, young officers would visit him, asking for advice or wanting to hear stories from the war. He always told them the same thing. We won because we remembered who we were. We fought with everything we had, but we never lost our humanity. That's the only victory that really matters. Captain Eric Lawson still commanded the ESS Defiance, but now his missions were very different. He escorted refugee ships to safety. He delivered supplies to disaster zones. He showed the galaxy that the same humans who could fight like demons could also work like angels. Lieutenant Claire Morrison had been promoted to captain, given her own ship, and sent on exploration missions to chart unknown space. Every few weeks, she would send back reports of new discoveries, strange planets, unknown phenomena, possibilities beyond imagining. In her latest message, she had written, "The galaxy is so much bigger than we ever knew. There are wonders out here that could take 1,000 lifetimes to explore. And thanks to what we did, humanity will have those lifetimes. We will have a future." On the former council station, now renamed Unity Station, a memorial had been built. It listed the names of every species the council had destroyed, every civilization that had been lost to their greed and cruelty. Visitors came from across the galaxy to read the names and remember Dot at the base of the memorial. Carved in stone were words that Lavra had chosen herself. They tried to cage us before we could spread our wings. They never imagined those wings were already strong enough to shelter others. Vexwrath spent his final years in a quiet prison on a distant moon. He was not executed or tortured. He was simply removed from power and left to live with his failures. Sometimes he would watch the news from the galaxy and see the changes happening everywhere. Species that had once feared the Council were now thriving. Worlds that had been stripped of resources were being restored. He never admitted that the new way was better. But sometimes, late at night when no one was watching, he wondered what the galaxy might have become if the Council had chosen partnership over control from the beginning. The answer, of course, was that it would have become exactly what it was becoming now. A community of worlds working together. A family of species helping each other grow. A galaxy that had finally learned what Earth could really do. And in the end, what Earth could really do was something far more powerful than any weapon or fleet. Earth could lead by example. Earth could show mercy to its enemies. Earth could turn fear into hope and hatred into friendship. Earth could change everything.